Welcome to the premiere of the current events class. I am your host, Sabbath Lafleur'S, and I'm sitting here today with my brilliant panel, some of our great students from Great Tomorrow's Middle School. And I'd like to introduce everyone here on our panel today. Starting from the right, we have Truth Lafleur, who is a 7th grader in our school. Next to her is Charles Adam, who is an 8th grader in our school. Following, Genesis Lewis, who is also a 7th grader in our school. To my left, I have Fadel Sam, who is also a 7th grader. Then we have Mariah James, who is a 6th grader in our school. And last but certainly not least, we have Amir Cabre, who is also a 6th grader in our school. Welcome everyone to the premiere show. How are you all doing today?
Good.
Are you excited about what we're going to do today?
Yes.
All right, great, because we have a lot to talk about. Now, you all know that I'm usually talking about political news, and of course I'm going to continue that today, but these students here who sit before you will be discussing some of the topics that we go over today. Now, I want to start with what's been going on in the news, and all of you have seen what has been taking place with Tribulation Trump, correct?
Yes.
All right, so you all know about the impeachment that just took place, and it was no surprise that he was not going to be removed from the office. He was actually acquitted. Were you all surprised about that?
No, not at all.
Okay, so as we continue to watch Tribulation Trump in the news, and as of yesterday, there was a report about Roger Stone, who's a good friend of his. Have you been following that?
Yes.
And we've watched what Tribulation Trump has done over the years. So let me ask you, from your perspective, what do you think about this current president?
Well, I think that this president does a lot of favoritism because, what was his name?
Roger Stone?
Roger Stone was his close friend, and he only got 3 years because he lied for the president. And that is very crazy. But his lawyer who ratted him out got more than him. But the president can excuse him, but he chose not to because he's petty like that.
So what you're talking about is the fact that Roger Stone, the prosecutors actually sentenced him for 7 to 9 years. However, that did not take place as of yet. And we know as of recent, Tribulation Trump spoke this past Monday from a reporter stating that it was unfair and so forth. And as a result of that, we know that the DOJ now are trying to reduce that sentence. In fact, they will reduce it. But what you're saying is that it's unfair, correct?
Yes, it's very unfair.
Anyone else? What do you think? What kind of man has Tribulation Trump shown himself to be to you?
Well, I think that President Trump, he's racist and he acts like a baby, and he doesn't really know all his stuff because most of the stuff he's saying has been wrong, and I think he's very racist and he doesn't like black people.
Yeah, well, you're certainly right about that, and what we've been witnessing lately with all of his tantrums, as you said, that he acts like a baby, and the fact that he has done all of these unlawful things and he's gotten no consequence of the things that he's done. You know, I was going over with my class of the 3 branches of government. You all are aware of that, right?
Yes.
The branches being executive, legislative, and judicial. And one of the things that my class or my students said to me was that, well, the president obviously heads the executive branch, right? But if our country is supposed to be about not one party having too much power, what do you think is going on with Tribulation Trump? Why do you think there's been no consequences to his unlawfulness?
I think that the legislative, which is the president, is taking all the power even though it's supposed to be equal, which is also another thing that's unfair.
So you think that he's taking all the power. But is our government set up so that one branch can have all the power?
No.
No, it's not. Which is why we have the 3 branches. But what it looks like, and this is what the students of my class said, it looks like Tribulation Trump has all of the power.
Yes.
Why?
I think it looks like Tribulation Trump has all the power. It's because he thinks he runs everything. Because the way he lies, it makes it sound like it's true fact, but it's really not.
So we know that he tells a lot of lies. I'm sure you all are aware of that, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you all this question as we look at this, because you all are witnessing and observing these times in which we live. You are witnessing this president. You have just witnessed an historical event being his impeachment. But yet there are millions of people who support Tribulation Trump. Why do you think that they will continue to support him no matter what?
Well, the reason why millions of people support Tribulation Trump are because they're racist and they don't like black people being president. Like Obama, when he was a president, a lot of people didn't vote for him. Only black people did. But yet, still, they think black people are niggas and they don't think that they could do works or nothing. But we need to prove them wrong and tell them that black people could do stuff that white people could not do.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question because you raised a good point. The fact that a lot of black people did vote for, they call him Obama, but God has called him the long-legged Mac Daddy, as you've heard Pastor state time and time again. Do you think that black people were also racist in their action of voting for Obama? Because as you just stated, the only reason they voted for him was because he was black. Yes. Doesn't mean that because you are black or a Hamite person that you are automatically a good person or a good leader?
No.
So what should we base our votes on? What should we base choosing a person as our leader on?
I think that we should base choosing our leader as from their personality and the way that we see them lead, and if they believe in God.
Okay, anyone else?
I agree to that to some point because sometimes people that are running, they lie to the people so they can vote for them, but sometimes they don't make up their promises like they said.
Right.
That also reminds me of Donald J. Trump because he also said that he would make America great again, but look what happened.
Okay, when he makes that statement that he's going to make America great again, obviously I've heard you all state many times from some of you that you believe that he's racist, and I would certainly agree with you. But when he says make America great again, do you think that he's really focused on all Americans?
No. He makes America white again. That's what he's trying to say.
Okay, so you think he's talking specifically about white people. Amir, you wanted to add to that?
I would like to agree because back in the days, it was a lot of segregation, and then black people did not have the same opportunities as the white people. So I think Donald Trump is trying to make that happen again right now.
Okay, so he's trying to uplift the white people, right?
Yes.
Is what you're saying? So again, as we watch Tribulation Trump, and you all, I'm not sure if you all recognize how fortunate and blessed you are to be living in a time where you're witnessing all of this, because on the other side of witnessing all of this wickedness and evil is the fact that God is doing something in this house, right? Through this ministry and through this school, and that is the vision of ATLAH. So as we're talking about Tribulation Trump and what's going on in this world, you know what our mission here is in the church and in the school as we talk about all excellence all the time. So Charles, let me ask you a question. As you're new to this school, correct? This is your first year in our school? Yes, ma'am. And it hasn't been a year yet. We're in the month of February. School will be over in June. I'm sure you all are excited about that. But you tell me, as a student coming here for the first time, and tell us where you came from, the changes that you've seen in this school as far as the impact it has made in your life in this short time.
Well, I'm from Jamaica, and coming to this country, it has been a pain because all my families are from Jamaica. But coming to this school, I met a lot of friendly people. When I go home every day, I say to myself, this is one of the best school I've ever been to because the teachers here are nice, the students are kind, and it's easy to get along, and it's not like 35 students in a class, and the food is nice.
But everyone talks about our food.
Yep. But I wanted to add on something about Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
About the impeachment trial. These people must be stupid because I don't know why would they vote for Donald Trump? Because he's behaving idiotic. Because all the things, he's not trying to put this nation together, he's trying to tear it apart. And that's what the devil is telling him to do. So I don't really know what's happening.
Wow, that's certainly a great point. What we're going to do right now is we're going to take a break, and when we get back from break, Charles, I want to pick up where you left off in the statements that you just made, because it's very important that other young people hear the statements that you are making. So let's take a break, and we'll be back with more of the current events class.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
All right, we are back, and you are watching the premiere segment of the current events class. I again am Sabbath Lafleur'S, sitting here with my brilliant panel, and I want to go back to Charles. You were making a statement before we took a break, and you were talking about the fact that this is your first year here in our school, coming straight from Jamaica, right? And you were talking about Tribulation Trump. Let's go back to the statement you made regarding Tribulation Trump.
Yeah, as I was saying, the votes. I was wondering why so many people voted for Tribulation Trump, and they have been seeing what's happening. Although I'm new to this state, I personally have saw what Tribulation Trump has been doing to this nation. And I think it's to be finished with. They need to cut it off because this is not going to end out very well.
Let me ask you a question, coming from Jamaica. While you were in Jamaica, were they following what was going on here in America with this president? Do you know of any adults or family members or just people in general in Jamaica who would follow the politics here in America? Because I'm curious as to what they were thinking or what they were saying. Are you aware of any of that?
No, not really.
Okay, but obviously you coming to America and you seeing Tribulation Trump, you certainly have your feelings about him. So let me ask all of you, in talking about leadership, he is the so-called, and I say so-called, president of the United States because he's been put there illegally by Russia. And we know that as they hacked our election in 2016. But let me ask you all a question. What do you think are the qualities or the characteristics of a leader? An ideal leader is a person who carries what qualities to you? And anyone can speak.
I think a leader should learn not to follow, and they should actually learn how to lead. They should know when it's coming, what's going to happen, what they're going to do. And I think a leader, they shouldn't really follow. They should actually lead.
Okay. Anyone
I
else?
would like to add on. I think a leader should have the right education. Like, for example, Trump, he really doesn't read a lot. And also, I think a leader should have a plan before the president, the election, and they should have things they want to improve to make the nation better. Yeah.
Okay.
I think a leader should always have a plan. They should always plan ahead just in case something happens. So you can always have a plan B just in case plan A goes totally out of proportion.
Okay. Now, let me ask you all a question again. As I asked Charles, being his first year here, I know for Amir, this is your first year here as well. And what do you think? What has your life changed? Has this school made an impact? What can you tell us in your experience being here for the first time?
Yeah, this definitely had an impact because I have many opportunities to do different things. Like, for example, me being here and talking about the, current events. And, for example, how Pastor Manning really cares about everybody. And, like, he really wants to he really wants to make people better. And, like, they'll make you out of a righteous person and a leader and a, like world leaders.
Okay, and I'm sure everyone sitting here wants to be a world leader, right? And okay, so let me ask you another question. As we are talking about all of this is taking place in the world, you know that the coronavirus is out there now, right? And that is also the headlines in the news as of late. Recently, I read an article this morning stating that in Hong Kong, they are now investigating as to whether or not this can be actually passed through pipes. And the reasons they are asking that question is because two people who lived in the same building have tested positive for the coronavirus, and they are 10 floors apart, is what the article stated. So as we're watching all of this take place, and we're watching thousands of people have died and more people have been infected, what are your views on this? What do you think?
Well, I have recently read in like a newspaper that 37 countries have already been affected by the coronavirus.
Wow.
And that was just like mind-blowing.
Anyone else?
They also said that people who went to China for like a visit who was in America and came back, they started to spread the coronavirus in the United States of America.
That's true.
I also have recently read that there are over 45,000 people who are infected by it, and there are 1,107 deaths by it. Even the doctor who pronounced this as a disease.
So it's quite interesting. Amir, you want to add to that?
I feel like this coronavirus may affect the U.S. and China trade deal, because the U.S. gets a lot of goods from China. Like most of our products are labeled from China.
Yes, they are. They are. Yeah. So you think it's going to affect our trade deal? You are right in some states because we have a lot of manufacturing done in China. It certainly has been affected because of the coronavirus. And so as we're witnessing this, I'm not sure if any of you know anything about the Sars pandemic that took place in 2003. You've heard of that. And in the Sars pandemic, a little bit over 8,000 people were actually infected worldwide. But as we're looking at this coronavirus, and you just stated, reading the article, it's just about 45,000 people have been infected by this coronavirus. I need to remind you all, as you listen to Pastor Manning preach, that he's been talking about we're in the midst of the tribulation. And so because we are seeing things that we've never seen before. We are hearing things that we've never heard before. As young people, again, being able to view and observe all of these things during this time, what do you think about that? Is that too much to comprehend? Do you understand it? What do you think?
I think it's kind of scary how all of this is going on and we're still like children. It's scary knowing that all these things are happening because we are in the midst of the tribulation.
Okay.
I feel like most young children wouldn't understand, but since we are under the Word of God and we have the man of God teaching us about this,
yes,
we can kind of comprehend what is going on in this world, because they also talk about different things in the Bible, and we've been like brought up with the Bible, so we have a better understanding of what's going on in this earthen world.
certainly.
I agree because the man of God said more than once, and before this has happened, the tribulation will be coming. So I agree what Mariah said about the coronavirus.
Okay.
Also, it's kind of is scary that knowing that this virus that's worse than SARS came from China and it's coming to America and it's going to start spreading more and more around America.
Let me ask you all a question. Being young people, I'm sure you all have friends, certainly family members. When you all learn the things that you learn here from the school, from the teachers, when you learn the teachings of Pastor Manning, how are you able, I think is the better question, to speak to your friends about this? And if you do, how is their response to you?
Well, most definitely I can speak to my peers about this because we are all under the same teaching.
Okay.
So they will understand where I'm coming
So
from.
all your friends are here is basically what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I understand that. Anyone else? Okay.
Well, I haven't talked to anybody about, what Pastor has been teaching us, but if I were to, I would think that they would think that I'm crazy and I need help.
Why do you say that?
Because most people, they don't listen right away.
Yeah.
They need like a good impact in order for them to hear what's going on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And it's unfortunate, but it's true that most people actually don't listen, and it's a lot of the times it's because they don't understand. And so when you don't understand something, you're not going to listen. It probably sounds really crazy to you, but the more you listen to it, especially if God has called you and chosen you, the more you understand it. You all understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, locally, I want to talk about local news. In local news in New York City, as we all reside in New York City, there has been, this past weekend, the shootings that took place of police officers here in not just this community, but in the Bronx, right? And before we started the show, we actually got into a discussion, and I said, okay, table it and wait, let's keep that for the show. But you all were talking about police officers, right? Yes. And the reasons we need police officers and the fact of there being bad police officers. But before we get into that discussion, let's go back to the news at hand. The news at hand being that this young man went and shot 2 police officers in a van, right, Saturday evening. Mm-hmm. And then Sunday morning, he went to the police station and then started shooting there as well. And I believe the article stated that they have the suspect in hand, but he was able to wound and injure some of the police officers. Going back to that conversation we had prior to the show starting, we were talking about police officers, and let's talk about that now. Some of you were saying the fact that there are some bad police officers. Let's start there first. What were you saying?
Well, I was saying that there are good police officers and bad police officers, and most people in society only focus on the bad police officers. Mm-hmm. So the bad police officers are making a horrible reputation for all police officers. Like, just think if we had no police officers at all, right. What would we do?
That's a good point.
What would we be doing?
Yeah. Anyone else? What do you think? If we had no police officers at all, as Mariah raised the question, what would our communities be like? Let me ask you a question. Do you think we need police officers?
I think that we need police officers because if we didn't, some people would take advantage of it and they would start robbing cars, robbing banks, and there would be nobody to help unless it's the community trying to help, but I don't think that would be enough.
Okay.
I think if we didn't have police officers, there wouldn't really be anybody around because they would be getting shot because a lot of people shoot, and when they're on drugs, they act crazy. They don't know what they're really doing, and their mind is being controlled.
So what kind of community do you think that we would need in an ideal community where we would not need police officers? What do you think would have to happen in that community that we would not need police officers?
I think everybody in that community would need a sane mind, and they will also need the Word of God.
Certainly.
To add on, I think in the community, they would need, like what she said, the Word of God, and on top of that, more rehab centers, and like no drugs in the neighborhood, because that's what started this shooting, because the guy Robert Williams, the suspect, he did drugs after his son accidentally shot himself.
Okay.
I think we would need Jesus and the Bible because I think the only community that we actually wouldn't need police officers is ATLAH, because ATLAH is Jesus community, and there wouldn't be any shooting or robbing, and people wouldn't need to do that stuff because they will have everything because the Lord will provide them with it.
Okay.
I think to add on, we will also need like fathers in their homes, like
Definitely.
a strict parent
Yes.
to stop
Absolutely.
them from going out in the street
Yeah.
and doing all of these terrible things.
Yeah.
That's what we lack most in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That's what we lack most of.
Definitely. Fathers in the home is what this ministry, you hear Pastor Manning preaching all the time about 50,000 righteous men, strong righteous men leading their homes, right? Leading in the communities, leading in the churches. Having a strong man in the household, especially with children, is extremely important. Why? Because the role of a strong man, once the son gets out of hand, what is the strong man going to do?
Put him in his place.
Yes, exactly. Put him in his place. So there would be no need for a police officer to do that because the man at home would be doing that. So the fact that we have lack of fathers in our communities, specifically in the J5th community, but more so in the Hamite communities, is a big thing. It is certainly an epidemic in our community. So when Pastor is preaching and you all are listening to him preach, this is what he's talking about, having strong men. 3 of you here are males. You want to be righteous young men, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to lead your homes, right? You want to, one day God is going to bring you a wife. You want to lead your wife. You want to lead your children. You want to be the head of your household, correct? That's what Pastor is preaching. And that's what the school and the teachers are teaching as well. I think we need to take a break. And we're going to come back. We have a lot more to share in this new current events class.
When you see the school called ATLAH, you see righteous boys and girls, always standing with the sword of the mighty God, as righteous leaders all over the world. We'll never turn to the left or the right. We shall prevail in all our fights, and we will say like Honorable Meddling says, ATLAH, that's what God says. And we will say like all our teachers say, ATLAH, that's what God says. ATLAH, we love you. ATLAH, we love you. We love you. Great tomorrows, we love you. We love you. ATLAH, we love you. We love you.
All right, we are back from break. And again, you are watching the current events class. And I'm sitting here with some of our students from Great Tomorrow's Middle School. Now, I want to jump back into this discussion that we were having before the break. And that was fathers in the home. As we're talking about the vision of ATLAH, we're talking about what has happened recently in the news, especially within our communities. Let's get back into that discussion. Charles, you had something to say about fathers in the home.
Yes, being a fatherless child is very painful because your father isn't really there to look out for you. And I, for one, grew up around a lot of ladies. I was the only boy, so that was very tough because all ladies want to really do is just go shopping. We men just want to go and, play some football or soccer stuff, but my father wasn't really there.
Okay.
Most of these fathers, all they do it's just in the early morning time you see them on the streets making deals with their drugs and smoking, drinking, and those stuff.
Right.
Some other time I say to myself, are these guys stupid? Because they have children to look after.
Right.
And at late time, all they want to do is come in and just expect food to come in their laps while they're lazy on drugs. So that's my point of view.
So what would you tell fathers, as you have stated that your father wasn't around? What would you tell fathers knowing how it is to be a male and not having a father in his life?
Well, the fathers should always be there, look out for their child. Even if they're not really there, they can, visit them now and then to check up and see what's going on, send them money, send them things that they need, and don't put all the pressure on the ladies.
Wow. Anyone else?
To add on to what he's saying, it's one thing for your father to not be there and send money, because just because they're sending money, they may have a shelter and clothes, but they won't have the right teaching on how to be a man. Like, for example, my father, he's not here, but he's in Canada. He's working 3 jobs, but when he has the time, he comes and visits.
Right.
And, teaches us how to be a real man.
Okay.
And works on, fixing up with the house and fixing the doorknob and sweeping around the house.
Right.
And sometimes cooking. So I'm lucky that sometimes my father can come around, but other people who don't have fathers there all the time, they're unfortunate, but I'm lucky to have a father that's there sometimes.
Okay.
Well, me also, it really is hard not growing up without a father. As me, I haven't seen my father as much, and it's really hard to see your father with another woman that's not your mother. So deep down, it kind of really does hurt.
Right.
Because you're like, mommy and daddy, like, y'all supposed to be together, what's going on? But sometimes things doesn't really work out, and it really does hurt because you can't be with your father, so you have to stay with your mother, and you miss him dearly, but there's nothing you can do about it.
To add on, the fatherless children that are here at ATLAH World Ministry have the chance because Pastor Manning is really our father.
Amen.
And he's teaching us how to be a good man, how to dress nice, how to take care of the ladies, and how to, be righteous.
Yes. Well, I praise God for that. Not to have a father in the home, as you hear, I can hear the pain in your voices when you share that your father's not in your life. But Amir, you're absolutely 100% correct in that. Thank God that he has Pastor Manning, that he brought Pastor Manning, because there's so many other children just like you that don't have fathers in their home. So when Pastor is preaching, as hard as he is, he's preaching to get those fathers back in the home, because he knows how painful it is for a little girl or a young man not to have a strong man in the home. So when you hear him say righteousness, and he's preaching so hard, and he's saying, fathers, get back in those homes and take care of your children and take care of your wives and lead your family, he's doing that for you all. But the fact that you have him, you're absolutely right. He is going to make sure that you all are protected. All of us are protected. And we want to thank God for Pastor Manning, and also that Pastor Manning is the one who put this class together. So we certainly want to thank God for Pastor Manning and putting this class together. But it's so very important that Hamite men especially, and there are people in the white communities that don't have father there. We are living in a time where men are not righteous, where men are not as strong as they used to be. But this prophecy of ATLAH, this school, it represents all of what God is speaking in the earth today. So you all are mightily blessed to be here in this school, and that God has allowed you to hear what he is saying. And so I know that it's painful as I'm listening to you all speak about not having a father in the home, but you are going to be blessed, because you're going to learn how to be a righteous man. You're going to learn how to be a righteous man. You're going to learn how to be a righteous man. And whatever mistakes your fathers have made, you are not going to make those same mistakes, because you're going to take care of your children, right? You're going to take care of your wife. I know you all are looking forward to getting married, right? Yeah, I know you all are looking forward to getting married too, young girls. No, Mariah? You say that now. You say that now, but trust me, you'll change your mind as you get older. So it's, again, very important that we continue to listen as Pastor Meddling preaches all of these things, because it affects all of us. It really does affect all of us. And Charles, you're talking about growing up amongst all of those women, being surrounded by women. And God knows, if there's one thing women can do, is we can talk and we can shop. But I thank God that God brought you here.
I want to add on something. My father has been with me for 8 years, but he left when I was the age of 8. But growing up, I usually go to visit. But the things a father is supposed to teach me, he never really did.
Okay.
He never really taught me most of those stuff. But the ladies I grew up around, they taught me more stuff than what my father taught me, because they understand men more than I would. So I like the advice they give me.
Yeah, I certainly can understand that. Let's move on. I have some pictures of Harlem as we're talking about ATLAH and this vision that God has given to us collectively. I found some pictures of Harlem, and this is Harlem in the 1920s. And I wanted to go through these pictures with you all. One, so that you can see the difference between how Harlem looks now. Our background, we can look right out this door and you see the streets of Harlem. You come into the school every morning, you leave here after school, and you're walking towards your home or whatever modes of transportation you all take. So you see how Harlem is now, right? How they're gentrifying this community, which means that there are people of other races that are moving into this community and pushing the Hamite people out, right? But I wanted to show you some pictures that I found actually on the internet. And one of the pictures I wanted to show you specifically was pictures of young boys and girls around your ages and how they used to dress going to school and so forth, right? So the first picture that we're looking at, if you all can see this, can everyone see this? Is a picture in Harlem. And if you look up at the screen, you'll see the subway station. You see how wide the streets are? That is one of the beauties of this community, how wide the streets are in this community. And as I go down, here's a picture of the young girls I was talking about. These are young girls, your ages, who have actually just come from school. And if you see them with their beautiful coats and their hats on and their dresses, they, I would say, look quite chic. I'm not sure if you know what that means. What do you all say when someone looks really good? What's the word you all use now? Lit. Okay. On fleek. Okay. All right. So you would say fire, fleek. These girls are certainly on fleek or on fire, however you want to say it, if I'm using it correctly. Okay, excuse me. One of our camera people say I'm not using it correctly. Okay, that's fine. But these are young girls, and this is how they used to dress here in Harlem in the 1920s. But then I wanted to go down to the young boys' pictures, and we're going to go through some pictures. And you see these men standing here. All of this, these are pictures in Harlem as we see it here. You see these crowd of people. They're actually having a parade in this picture in Harlem. But you see how wide the streets are? Yeah. The streets are humongous. That's one of the beauties of this community. So let's get to that picture. These are pictures of people who are actually getting ready to vote. As they're standing on the lines. And I want you to look at how they're dressed. You see their long coats and their hats. This is how they used to dress during this time. But I want to get to the picture of the young boys. This is Marcus Garvey, and you all know about Marcus Garvey, as Pastor Manning has spoken about him numerous times. I believe, here it goes. Here's the picture of the young boys. These are young boys standing in front of their school. And you see how the young boys are dressed with their suits and their hats and their long coats. This is how they used to dress, which is completely different from how they dress nowadays. So if you look at a picture like this, as we're talking about these young black Hamite boys, and again, these pictures were taken during the 1920s, and you compare how the young boys dress out in the street now, what's the difference?
The difference is that these young boys look like businessmen. The young boys now look like thugs who just came out of the gang or something.
The young boys in the pictures, you can see how they dress fine or wherever they're going, no matter what. But nowadays, they just wear whatever they have in their closet. Don't have to be washed or ironed. Jeans, they wear, it's just don't look nice.
Well, boys, these boys, as you can clearly see in the picture, they look like fine young gentlemen. But nowadays, these people, they have their pants under their butt, acting like they all gangstery now.
Yeah.
But they know they're not really all that.
Yeah, certainly. Fidel?
The picture right here of the young men, they look like they're gonna be the righteous men, but nowadays they're sagging their pants, they have rip holes in their jeans, and they wear shirtless, and they wear anything that they wanna wear.
And also the picture here, they show boys with their suits on looking good, but now boys, they have holes in their pants. Sometimes you can see their underwear. They always trying to look like thugs with their hoodies and masks.
To add on to this, I think back then the young boys had many opportunities of getting jobs. Now the Japheth people look at us as if we are worth nothing and as if we can't do nothing.
But is that true? Are we worth nothing? Is it that we can't do anything?
No, that's not true.
It's not true, right? So then whose job is it to decide whether or not we're going to go get a job or we're going to do something? Do you leave that in? Whose job is that? So then what do you think we need to do?
We need to prove that Japheth people wrong, that black people could have the same amount of jobs as they had back then.
Do you think it's solely about just having jobs?
No, I don't think it's solely about having jobs. I think it's about having respect and integrity.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
But what I mean is that, like, most people show people in higher standards, most likely Japheth people, and they give them more respect than the Hamite people. They don't respect us at all. They look at us like we're pigs and dirty animals, but we're really not.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think that us Hamite people, we should take a stand, because in history class, I'm learning about a lady named Shirley Chisholm, and she was the first African-American woman to run for president. And the reason she did this was because she thought that a lot of Japheth males were doing everything, and not many Hamite people did stuff, and a lot of people thought they were worth nothing, and they really didn't do a lot of things because they were Hamite people were like dogs to Japheth people.
Okay, so going back to Tribulation Trump, which is how we started this class, and speaking about his lawlessness, and many of you stated that you believe that he was racist, and I certainly concur with you, and talking about being Hamite people. And when I say Hamites, those of you out there, I'm talking about having brown and dark skin. And we look at these pictures taken in the 1920s of how Harlem used to be and how these young boys and girls used to dress and how we used to be as a people And we talked about not having fathers in the home. What do you think our number one problem in our communities? Because as we look at these pictures and as we're talking about these police shootings and all of these other things, we were not always this way as a people. They didn't walk around with their pants hanging below and their underwear showing and all of this debauchery that we are seeing today, that you are witnessing. So what do you think changed over the course of the years that made it this way now?
I think it was slavery, because slavery, Japheth people wasn't really slaves, but it was mostly Hamite people. And I also think that after they stopped slavery, they kind of made Hamite people look bad, and they always ended up in jail, and they just didn't have all the rights, so they kind of started believing in what they said, and they were standing for it.
Anyone else? Wait, before you answer, I do want to say this to you, Truth, and I just heard the statements that you made. After slavery, there was a period where Hamite people, black people, actually did do well. There was a period where they owned their own homes, where they had their own land, where they made their own businesses. They actually were responsible for creating and running their own businesses. There was a period where they actually were a community of people that helped one another. But today that's different. So right after slavery, it wasn't that they did bad. They actually did very well in many times throughout the history of Hamite people. If you want to talk about this being Black History Month, they did very well. Today it's different. Today you all have only been alive to witness what black people do now, but it was not always like this. If you listen to the stories of Pastor Manning, you remember all the stories he tells about how it was when he was growing up? It wasn't always this bad for black people. And you may not know that something happened in the course of the years that changed the minds of black people, which is civil rights, that made black people begin to think that, oh, well, whatever the white person has, you need to have the same thing. So that trying to be equal to white people then began to change people's mindset, and they started to think, well, you know, you owe me something and I don't have to work as hard, or you owe me this and so forth. But it was not always like this. Someone was going to say something here?
I think also to add on, I think it's also the lack of God.
Yes, certainly.
When they took God out of the schools,
definitely.
And when the churches started to close down, go out of business, the lack of God was the thing that really made us just go crazy.
Yeah, certainly, definitely.
I would like to say that not all Japheth people are bad,
Yes.
and not all Japheth people are racist. Some of them actually like Hamite people, because they are members of our church online that are Japheth, and they don't think anything against us. They think we're worth something too.
Yes, certainly. So let me ask you all a question before we close out this segment. As we've talked about all these various things, Amir, did you want to say something? In regards to what you want to be, and we stated earlier that all of you stated you want to be world leaders, obviously. What is it that you want to do? What do you think God has put you in the earth to do? And anyone can start. Anyone can answer.
I think that God put me on this earth to be an architect, because that's something I'm really good at. I really love math, and I just feel a love for drawing and architecture.
Okay.
And I feel that I could do great at it.
And we certainly need architectures in ATLAH, so that is definitely a great profession.
Well, what I want to do in life, I actually want to travel the world. I want to be a linguist. I want to learn different languages. And I think that as I do it, I should talk about Jesus and Pastor Manning and why you should be in the church, and that Hamites are going to be the next leaders, and the Tribulation and things like that.
Okay.
The reason why I'm in this earth is because I want to be a doctor. Since I was a little kid, I always used to love to go to the hospital, and my mom always noticed that. So I wanted to be a doctor and help people that needs help. And I told you the right thing. Like now, doctors, if they need to tell you the truth, what you really need to heal your sickness, they won't tell you. They just give you drugs. But if I grow up, I'll tell you what you really need.
Right.
Cause I want to make this this nation a better nation than now.
Okay.
Well, I think God put me on this earth to become a pediatrician. Because I have seen a lot of children growing up, suffering from pain and sorrow, all this disease going by. And, well, other than a pediatrician, I would want to be a scientist to find out the cure for some of these diseases like cancer.
Yeah.
All those diseases that don't have any cure. I would like to learn more about them.
That's great. Genesis?
I think God put me on this earth to become a chemist, just like what Charles said. I want to discover cures for these diseases like cancer and all of that. And if I become a chemist, I have to be good in science and math.
Right.
I think God put me on this earth so I can be a scientist and a therapist. I want to be a therapist because a lot of people don't like to speak about their feelings and they just keep everything in. I want to break people out of their shell so they could be who they really want to be, so they can bring their knowledge to the world.
Well, that's absolutely great. We have 3 scientists, chemist, linguist, architect, and doctor. That's absolutely phenomenal. And there's no doubt that all of you will be able to fulfill your dreams, and even beyond that, if you just continue to follow the word of God. So it's great listening to you all know what you want to do with your life, know what God has called you to do in your life. It's absolutely wonderful. I want to encourage you all to continue to dream. Never stop dreaming. Keep dreaming, and know that you can fulfill anything that God has called you to do. Know that you can do it. You are not failures. And I hope you all really know that you are not failures, that God has called you to this ministry and to this school so that you can be taught academics as well as things to build your character. So I'm so glad that you all were able to share with me today during this time. It was absolutely wonderful to listen to you all talk. Now, was anyone nervous when we first started?
No, I wasn't. No.
How are you feeling right now? You feeling good?
Yes.
Could you do this a little bit longer?
Yes.
Are you starting to get comfortable with it?
Yes.
Very good, because we're going to be doing this every week. So it's very important that, I tell my students all the time that you need to know what's going on in this world. You are living during this time. You need to know what's going on in the world that you're living in. So it's great that you all are paying attention to all of the things that's going on in this world. And this November, we're going to be voting for the next president, whoever that is. I can tell you, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen in November? Do you think Tribulation Trump is going to remain the president, or you think someone else is going to come in? And added to that, part B of the question is, do you think that whoever is the president is going to make a difference?
I think that Tribulation Trump is not going to be the president again, because it would be absurd if he won. If he won again, it would just people would be curious, like, to see if he really, if there was meddling in the presidency and the voting.
Right.
But if I were to pick someone who would, who would run against Trump, it would be Joe Biden. I don't want him to, but I feel like he's gonna probably run against Trump.
Okay.
I think that Trump might get reelected because he has a strong, fan base. Every time he has a speech, you see all those Japheth people behind him rooting for him. And he might have help like he did with Russia. So we don't know what's going to happen.
That is very true. We know that Russia helped them the first time.
I think that Donald Trump is going to be a president because Russia is going to help Donald Trump again because they don't want United States to be great. Yes.
I think Trump will be reelected because there's a lot of people who still like him even after he tried to start a war with Iran. And because there's a lot of Japheth people who still like him, and even there's even still some Hamite people who still like him.
I also think Trump will be voted into the House again because if he did it the first time, he could surely do it again.
Well, he could certainly surely do it again. You know, as of last night, I'm not sure how many of you were actually following the polls last night in New Hampshire. Who won New Hampshire last night? Did you all see that? Between Sanders and Buttigieg, Sanders took the lead last night. And the thing, yeah. And so the thing that I thought that was interesting was when they did the exit polls, one of the things that they stated was that out of all the people who voted last night for the various people on the Democratic Party, 62% wanted anybody. They didn't care who won on the Democratic Party as long as they beat Tribulation Trump. 62% of the people that voted last night said, this is the person who I want to win, but even if that person doesn't win, as long as there's somebody that beats Tribulation Trump, I'm happy. So as we talk about all of these millions of people Tribulation Trump has, and he does have a large fan base, Genesis, as you stated, there are also millions of people who are against Tribulation Trump. But we'll see what happens in November. We don't know what's going to happen. Could he be reelected? He certainly could. As of to date, he's been doing whatever he wants to do, right? Being the head of the executive branches, we talk about the three branches, and no one has done anything. He has not dealt with any consequence. So could he be reelected? Yes, he could. It is certainly possible, especially because it was done the first time illegally. So if Russia hacked the first time, exactly.
I hope they
Exactly. What would stop them from doing it again? So we'll see what takes place. I can tell you this. Whoever is voted into office is not going to make a difference. This country is never going to be the same again. You all understand that, right? But the reasons why you're blessed again is because you have this ministry and you have this school. So I encourage you all, stay here. Continue to listen to your teachers, listen to Pastor Manning. I thank you all for sharing this premiere of the current events class with me today. And I thank you all out there for watching as we start with this class. We're going to be here every week with many of our talented and brilliant children from our school. So we thank you all for watching. We thank you, Pastor Manning. Everyone say thank you, Pastor Manning.
Thank you, Pastor Manning.
For putting this class together. Is truly a blessing. I hope you all were blessed as I was blessed listening to these students. And we say to you all out there, everyone in one accord, peace out.